what do all of those successful people do? They all stay hungry. They all stay humble, and they keep on working.
Absolutely, man. Art Williams said, man, you beat 50% of people just by, showing up and being a good person.
Welcome to the Millionaire Car Salesman Podcast, the #1 resource for automotive sales professionals, managers, and owners to learn how to make money, accumulate wealth, and to all out ball out in the auto industry. And now your hosts, Sean V. Bradley and L.A. Williams.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is L.A. Williams, and I am here on the Millionaire Car Salesman Podcast. And man, I got a phenomenal guest for you today. The crazy thing is we actually got a bunch of different recording happening. We are here at the Dealer Synergy headquarters, and we got a bunch of managers in here, man. And I had to grab one who just a couple of weeks back, actually, he and I spent some time at the dealership. I could tell the cat was sharp, man. He was just on his game. He was reading some stat story or something like that. I don't know. He's going to have to tell us a little bit more about that. But, man, without further ado, I want to bring my main man to the table, man. He's a general sales manager? What's the actual position?
I'm the sales manager right now. More active in used cars than new cars, but.
Okay, cool. So the sales manager, and you guys some of y'all might know his voice, but I'm just going to bring to the microphone my main man, Lamar Turman. What's happening, Lamar?
What's going on, man? It is an absolute pleasure to be here with you, LA.
Oh, man, absolutely, man. This is pretty cool. So here's the situation. I know, first of all, you've been in the industry for a little while now. You connecting with people and like, oh, you may not remember me, but I remember you for 20 years ago, all kind of good stuff, right? So your story's still unfolding, even as of today. But tell the people about your background in the automotive industry. How'd you even get started?
So I got started in the car business as a result of my best friend, Mark, who's still in the auto industry as well.
Okay.
He's selling cars at our second dealership that we worked at together. Mm-hmm. We've been in the car business. He's been at about 21 years, so that would put me right around 19, 18 years. Mm-hmm. I got started because I went to lunch with him, and he ambushed me with who would become my future boss, who said, when can you start? And I started that following Monday.
What were you doing at the time?
I was working in a factory in the engineering department of a place called Deca Battery, East Penn Manufacturing.
Okay.
A $40,000 a year job. It was my first job after a little bit of college, and I was 23 years old.
Okay, cool. All right, so he gets you started. He ambushes you. He, basically headhunted you. You know what I'm saying?
Now looking back at it, you're exactly right.
Right, so he brings you into has lunch with you, brings you to the dealership. You get started. What was that like? How many cars did you sell? Talk about that story.
I want to say that first month, I believe the number was 8. We were a dealership that sold about 50 cars.
Okay.
We had 7 or 8 salespeople at the time. I remember that November was the absolute worst that I've ever had. I sold 3 cars. I went to my boss and said, "Am I fired?" At the end of the month.
That's awesome. First of all, that's character for you right there. You went to him and asked him that question. That's beautiful.
Just want to plan ahead.
I got you. Now, see, the crazy thing, the average car salesman only sells 9.6 cars. Mm-hmm. So for your first month to sell 8 cars at a 50-car dealership is actually not, it's not too far down, down to 2, down to 3, it depends. But I just had somebody on here last week that said that they sold 4 cars and made $4,000. So, you know what I'm saying? It's definitely something to it. And so we'll talk about gross and stuff like that. But how much money did you make that first month, and what did that do for you based off of your $40,000 a year job?
I'm so glad you asked that question because I'm going to tell you what I made that year.
Okay.
$27,583.
You got down to the dollar.
I'm pretty darn close. If I'm off by a couple of bucks, it's been almost 20 years. But my mother and father, family members thought that I was absolutely crazy for leaving a $40,000 a year job to go make 27. And I said, but the goal isn't where you start. It's not, as my father likes to say, it's not where you start, it's where you can finish. So I made sure that every year, and it's been true, there's been one exception in my career that I didn't make more than the last year.
Okay. All right, cool. So talk about, as you got yourself really started and, you really started learning some stuff, maybe even before you got promoted into management, what did the numbers start to look like? So
I consistently, that first dealership I got to live, always 12, 14 cars. 12 to 14 cars is what I stayed consistent at that first dealership. That was the first 5 years of my career.
Okay.
The second dealership, again, 12 to probably maybe 15. I never wanted to be more than 16 cars because at those dealerships, they allowed us to sort of pencil our own deals. And then over time, they also allowed us to sell accessories and then add that gross to the front of the deal and then sell OnStar and add that to the gross of the deal. And they allowed us to get to a point where we could hold gross and control it. And of course, we were always trying to chase the desk. We were always trying to run better gross deals, a higher gross than the desk was. And that's what started opening people's eyes to the talent level that we had, that I developed, I guess, over time.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, man. So I hear you talking about, some of these other products. What is the secret? What do you do to maintain gross?
So one of the things that I've noticed, the things that a manufacturer will do to an owner are the same things that we as sales managers should be looking at for our salespeople, and salespeople should take it upon themselves. What do I mean by that? It's gotten to the point where now the car business is becoming piecemeal. All of your money isn't made in the gross of a new car deal or a used car deal for that matter. It's becoming all of those other caveats and other things that you have to jump through in order to get that money. What I mean by that is whether it's a telematics system like OnStar. If you sell an OnStar subscription, that may give you an extra $50, $100 plus what you made in the deal. So if the deal was a mini of $100, you sold OnStar for 1 year, that was $50 more, and you're able to sell accessories with your dealership's permission, and you're able to sell step rails on that truck that you just took a miniature deal on. Right. You got another $300 towards the gross. Maybe you picked up another. Well, now your mini was just $225. So that's where the money started to come in. And I would say, making $90,000 consistently, like my best friend has been making for the last 10 years or so at the same dealership. I've found that there are people that feel as though this commission thing that we do can be scary. And I look at them and look at their hourly job as scary because no one's going to tell me what I'm worth, right? So the amount of work that we put in and the amount of things that you go out and learn, whether it brings you monetary dividends or it helps you sell one more car, that helps you grow. As it grows your bank account, it also grows you as a character, you as a salesperson, you as a sales manager.
100%, man. I'm telling you, I would be so scared to be in a position that I couldn't control my income because, again, if they're controlling all my income and I need to make some more money, I'm stuck.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
And so, man, commissions is absolutely the best because I know it's up to me. Most people, the reason why they're afraid of commissions is because they don't trust themselves.
Agreed.
And, that's unfortunately it's the life that they live. But if you really begin to, trust yourself and begin to make commitments and keep commitments to yourself, then you'll start to be like, man, commission is absolutely the way to go.
I'd also say, LA, one of the things that I learned along the way that someone said to me, and it's always stayed with me, unfortunately, and I'm just going to say people of color, we have a way of pulling each other down. And I call it the crab in the bushel. I'm sure you've heard that before. The crabs in the bushel, always pulling each other down when one person could get out and pull everybody up. I think, unfortunately, sometimes we listen to the naysayers. And something that an owner once said to me, the quickest way to stay broke is to take advice from broke people. So I stopped doing that. I stopped listening to people who had small minds and didn't want to grow beyond what they said I couldn't grow past. I found a way around it. I adapted and overcome, found if it meant driving to New York every day, which I did, or if it meant driving to New Jersey every day, which I did, if it meant living in the hotel and the Hiltons and all that stuff, I did that because I needed to keep growing. I needed to keep knowing, and I needed to keep growing my income and growing my brand, I guess, which was I want more knowledge because knowledge is power. Nobody will ever take that away from me.
Man, Lord, man, E.T., he talks about it, Eric Thomas. He said, knowledge is the new money. Get you some. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely, man. And it's funny when you talk about driving to New York because reading Kevin Hart's book, that's a big part of what got his career started. You know what I'm saying? It was just that grind. Most folks don't want to go through the grind. So
that's
never
true.
kind of works for them.
LA, and I don't know the whole story, but I collect memes, and one of the most powerful memes that I've ever kept is the iceberg. And what people see, the part of the iceberg sticking out where it says success, and under the water, they don't see the struggle. They don't see the late nights. They don't see the not being able to pay this bill. They don't see the sacrifice that you made in order to do this other thing. They don't see that I've taken money out of my own pocket to pay for trainings like this over the years. And now my wife has seen those things, and she'll never let me live that down, right?
Not at all.
But people, like Kevin Hart, people don't remember that Sean Puff Daddy Combs got up at 4:00 in the morning, took 3 trains, and worked for free for a year for a guy before they gave him a shot. He washed cars, right? But everybody sees what he is now. And that's one of the things that I know one of the things that we wanted to discuss was, what are the things that change? Where's the light switch change in your career? When you go to work, when you realize that no matter what you got to do to get there, you're willing to do it. Because in order to have what one man has, you have to be willing to do the things that he has done. So when you adapt those philosophies, and it doesn't matter that at 8:00 the dealership closes and it's 8:00, it's time for me to leave. Well, no, it's 8:00. Maybe somebody else has a customer. Maybe I can hang around and grab another up. That's the right mindset. Because when your bills are short, you need to figure out what you need to do, right? It's not give up time and work your schedule.
It's called grind time, baby.
Grind time.
Man, that's what I'm talking about. I love it. And it's so very interesting. They always talk about it, man. If you're walking down the street, if you're walking down a road and you look to the field on your left and you look to the field on your right, and if both of them are empty, you don't know which farmer, right, didn't plant seeds.
That's right.
Right? One of those fields could be full of seeds. The other one could be completely empty, but you won't know until time goes by. Man, I always talk about you got to focus on seed time harvest. So many people, they just forget that part. So when you talk about, because I know you told me a story, I want you to share this with the listeners, the millionaire car salesman listeners, right? You were a part of a dealership, and I know they were having some challenges with the closing ratio. And can you talk about what happened and what the story is that kind of got that thing moving?
Sure. One of the stores that I worked at in the Lehigh Valley was a store it's well established. It has 5 brands and a used car department. When I was hired there, they were told that the used car department would never do more than 60 cars.
Wow. And what year is this?
This is about 7 years ago.
Okay.
2012-ish, 2012,
okay. Gotcha.
2013. Yeah. So that's what they were told. The previous director, a gentleman named Jose, and his helper Albert, myself, were able to drive the store to about 100 cars a month, profitably at $2,300 a copy or so, somewhere around there.
Wow.
And Jose left and moved on, and with Albert, and left myself and another gentleman to carry the rest of the flag, and we were able to get our store to 145 cars a month. 144, I think, is the standing record at $24.56 a copy without back end. So we were doing all right. All right. And then on the internet side, a gentleman asked me if I would take a look at their follow-up process. We closed on the internet sales side about 5% as a dealership body, as a Cadillac, Chevy, Mazda, and Volvo store, including used cars. And then used cars alone was 8%. And just by learning and reading and going out and finding people better than ourselves and reaching out to different vendors. I wish I'd have known Dealer Synergy. And oh my God, it would have made my life a whole lot easier. We were able to drive that to 17%.
Wow.
We had a 17% closing ratio, which I gotta say had a lot to do with how we got to 144 cars at that store so profitably.
Huge. That's huge, man. And see, people don't understand this. Sometimes it's the little things, right? We talk about, they say, when you respond to a lead in less than 30 minutes, right, there's about a 16% closing ratio. But if you wait for over an hour, it drops to about 9%,
Sure.
right? So something simple like that can just make all the difference in the world. Consistency, doing what you're supposed to do, man. That's what you got. That's what I'm talking about.
Do the basics brilliantly.
Yes.
Do the basics brilliantly.
Love it.
Understand that as a new car salesman in this, and I get very passionate about it. I get chills every time I talk about it. Understand that you just open your own business. It's up to you what you do with it. Someone's paying the overhead. Someone's paying for the telephone. Someone's paying to stock the cars. But it's up to you what you do at your desk. And you can decide how much of this car business you want, what percentage of the amount of money that we're going to make this year is going to go to you, because you can come get it.
Yep.
No one's holding you back. And the cool part about being a sales manager, or general sales manager, or director, or any of those titles that I've held, the cool part about it is you're always trying to pull up the people behind you. You're all going in the right direction. It's only when you bump into the only thing that in my mind that outweighs talent in the car business is cancer. And if you've got a cancerous activity, cancerous mind, and you're poisoned, you got to stay away from those people. Find like-minded people and all go the same direction. If you find someone that they ain't got nothing, they're going to tell you how to not have nothing and how bad this place sucks. Walk away from them. Look at their pockets. And if they're broke, don't take their advice.
Absolutely, man. If you don't want their life, don't take their advice. I love it, man.
Amen.
That's what I'm talking about. So share with the people, because look, the Millionaire Car Salesman podcast, the listeners, they absolutely want to make money, right?
Yes, sir.
So talk about what are some of the keys to making money in the automotive industry. Matter of fact, let's separate the two. Let's talk about as a salesperson.
Okay.
What do I got to do if I'm 25, 30 years old? I'm like, man, I want to make some money. What do I got to do?
Get good at your trade. Get good at your trade. And we just said do the basics brilliantly. From the perspective of a car salesman, you should know what it is you're selling. You should want to be hungry to go get more knowledge. You should maybe pick up a book like I'm a Verdi fan, so how to make $100,000 in the car business. If you haven't read that and you're in the car business, you need to go get it today. Stop what you're doing and go to the library.
Basics.
I'm just saying these are basic things, right? Your walk around. I've won 2 walk around contests with General Motors over the years. Don't be afraid to volunteer to go put yourself out there to learn more things. That means there are people that made fun of me for the nerdy little things that I wanted to learn, where I used to book in all the cars and they didn't pay me anything to book in cars. What I mean by booking in cars, going and looking at what engine was in a car, what transmission was in a car, what type of brakes, were they Brembo brakes, how many exhaust ports were on the car, all of the things that made a car and different trim levels, and learning those things. And then what I found in my early career, where people started coming to me 2 years in, you guys have been in the car business 8, 9, 10 years, and you're asking me what's in that car. Well, why didn't you go find out? Or why didn't you go look? Well, I don't need to know. Well, but I'm still here and most of y'all are gone. So how did that turn out? So do those basics brilliantly. Understand that this is not a job. This is a career path. A wise old owner told me, and I'll never forget this one, when he calls his friend, an attorney who works for the NFL Players Association on Friday nights, he can never take his calls. He said, because he's still at work. And yes, it's 8 or 9 o'clock on a Friday night. And he's calling from Manhattan down to Washington, D.C. And he can never talk to his buddy that night because he's still working. Now, he had a 60-hour work week, but they also pay him $1 million a year. So if you want $1 million type of money, you got to put $1 million effort in.
Absolutely.
I don't know about I don't know any successful person that works a 40-hour work week.
It don't happen. Man, you can't have $1 million dream, with $10 an hour work ethic.
Ain't that the truth? Ain't that? Amen.
So 100%, man. So now, because I heard you talk about those, little small, like when they talk about the details, right? How did that help you working with customers? Because I don't know. I mean, do customers want to know about, how many gaskets the engine thing has in it, or what did that do for you as far as details are concerned?
When I say the details that it helped me with was when a customer came in and they wanted the true performance car. The difference between I'll go back to our younger days, a Pontiac Grand Am and a Pontiac Grand Am Ram Air V6. There was a difference between those cars. There was a horsepower difference. There was cold air intake. That was a difference. But when you talk to someone who wanted that sports car, and you knew, and you didn't dawdle, or you dealt with a truck customer, and the truck customer asked you, I need to tow my camper. It weighs roughly 13,000 pounds wet, 13,000 pounds dry. You need to know those terminologies. You need to be able to get through those things because you are a trained professional. And
you should be, at least.
You should be. If not, start learning today. Pick one car a week. We don't sell that many of them. Just pick one car a week and get to know it forward, backwards, upside down.
Beautiful. And see, I think it's the same thing, because it's not so much about, the fact that you know all these details and everything like that. What happens is you set yourself apart from the average, ordinary person who just doesn't know or isn't willing. I think you can just have a different type of conversation, and people respect that. Right? The simple fact that you just cut above the rest, right?
Yeah.
Jay-Z talking about cut from a different cloth. My texture is the best for chinchilla. You know what I'm saying? That's the whole point, man.
Agreed.
Absolutely. So now talk about from a manager's perspective, how do you make money as a manager in the automotive industry?
I'd say you got to step up your game. You got to stay hungry. You got to remember what got you in that chair.
Yep.
And if you stop, know that there's somebody else coming behind you. And I would say keep that hunger and that fervor. That's the thing, that discipline to want to know more, to want to be better. I'm not the most competitive person. I'm competitive with myself.
There you go. I
am so driven inside. I have conversations with you or Sean, some of the people that are in this building today, and it takes me back, and I get excited about it, and I start talking too fast, and I have to slow myself down. But that excitement level came because I got better and better at the car business, right? I try to say so much because I've retained so much. I used to tell people I'm the best kept thief in the car business because I've stolen from my first boss. He was a heck of a closer.
Yeah.
You know, when someone's closing your deal, don't walk away, by the way, little tip. Anyway, learn it. But as a manager, continue to hunger. Don't think you know too much. Don't think you know everything. Keep learning, because somewhere out there's someone who knows more than you. Just keep driving.
Absolutely, man. The middle class think they know enough. The world class is eager to learn. And I'm like falling all over the place when he's saying this, because I say it all the time. I'll take a TO, for a coordinator or something, and they like get up and walk up. Like, how do you do that? Like, I'll be wanting to know. And then I hang up the phone and I'm like, oh, the appointment's set. They're like, well, how did you do that? Well, you should have been listening.
Here.
I can't believe.
Agreed.
How did you miss that? I would be so trying to eat that up. It don't make no sense. So anyway, we just talked about one crucial mistake, right? And it's one of those little things, right? But what are some of the more obvious? What are some of the mistakes that you watch people make over and over outside of walking away with somebody closing their deal, right? In the automotive industry, what would you say?
I would say, honestly, the pitfall that I see more people fall into than they realize when they're falling into it is that we don't have structure time necessarily in dealerships. So when left to our own devices, we go and buddy up and hang out at the coffee clutch, and we go discuss lunch for an hour and a half, or we go and we hang out in the BDC and play grab butt, or we want to, these new electronic devices, we want to watch the latest 20 YouTube videos, and it's almost like it's self-discipline because it's so unstructured. If you don't get it early that you have to be self-driven and you've got to police yourself, that a manager shouldn't be managing your time plus managing themselves and plus managing the floor. I shouldn't have to be on top of you and whipping you to get you to do the right thing or trying to get you to drive to a carrot. You've got to be self-disciplined. That is, I would say, the number one thing that I see done wrong in a dealership. And I go, and then at the end of the week, your decisions led you to where you are today. So when you don't get the check that you thought that you deserved, look in the mirror. Don't look up here at the desk. Look in the mirror.
Absolutely. It's so crazy because Karen Bradley, time maximization expert, she's featured on the podcast before. She taught me through Stephen Covey and through the Eisenhower method, the time matrix, right? Basically focusing on you got to live in the areas that are most important, right? Things that are urgent and important, you got to do them. Things that are important, you got to do them. If they're urgent and not important, you want to find a way to not have to do that. And then what you just talked about, things that are neither urgent nor important. We waste so much time, right? There's only 86,400 seconds in a day. Once they're gone, they're gone. What I say is that if we learn how to treat a second like $1, we could become wealthy.
That's true.
You see what I'm saying? Like,
and to that point, LA, the most precious commodity that we all get, you can't buy more of it on your deathbed. You can't go back and watch the birth of your child again. Yet we squander it like it has no value.
Yep.
I know you and I had this conversation a couple of weeks ago. Oprah Winfrey, all of these, the who's who of the powerful people, why do they all still get up at 4 o'clock in the morning? Because you would think that once you got all that money, you just lay in bed a couple,
Nope.
But no, they still live their best lives, and they average these incredible days full of value, right? And what do we do with it? We sit in a dealership and we look at the up outside. We look at our CRM on the desk. We look at our phone. We want to look at what other people are doing on Facebook. But if you are going to put in average effort, then you're going to reap average rewards.
Yep.
And I decided a long time ago I didn't want to be average.
Yep.
So I had to keep working.
Absolutely. Phenomenal stuff, man. So we talked about the mistakes, right? What are some of the habits of the most successful people? What are they doing differently that these folks that's making mistakes, what are they doing so special?
Everybody that I know that's successful, no matter what they do for a living, they put in an honest day's work. They go to work and they work. They don't have a lot of downtime. They don't take shortcuts for short gains. The most successful people that I know are honest. They have a moral compass. They have a thought, a belief system, and they have a drive.
Yeah.
And I would say that other than some of the awesome people that have sat in this chair prior, I look back at one of the things that has what I say is successful is I've had 11 people who are salespeople that are sales managers or finance managers now that have worked for me at some point. And I generally get a phone call when they make it over. 11. I've been in the car business 18 years. That's pretty amazing to me. I have a customer I've sold 19 cars to because I told him the truth in the beginning, and I stick with that truth. All these years later, he's bought cars from me in 3 states. He lives 15 minutes from my house in Reading. But what do all of those successful people do? They all stay hungry. They all stay humble, and they keep on working.
Absolutely, man. Art Williams said, man, you beat 50% of people just by, showing up and being a good person. Right.
That's true.
That's it. That's all it is. Right. And then you put a little effort and work ethic and excitement, enthusiasm in it. And then you going to beat 90% of people. Right. So it's not about the most difficult, crazy. Oh, my gosh, what are they doing? They're just showing up and being a good person. Right. Now, the last 10% is a dog fight. You know what I'm saying? You got to grind it out. Right. But again, if you just want to be at the top echelon, it's really not that. You just got to be consistent, man. You just got to have a character base. So I love what you just said, man. It's phenomenal stuff.
Work ethic, man. Work ethic, brother.
100%, man. And they talk about that in one of my favorite books, The Richest Man in Babylon, right? They talk about how, work is a pleasure. I mean, the way that it's a pleasure. The simple fact that I can work, man, I don't want to be lazy. I don't want to sit around and do nothing all day. That's not profitable to anyone. What value am I bringing? So, man, that's always a question that you want to be asking yourself. So when you think about some of the books, I heard you mentioned a book earlier. You talked about, you gave us one recommendation. What's another really good book recommendation that you have for the listeners?
Who Moved My Cheese?
Oh, man. Yeah. And it's a simple book, too.
It is.
It's a very, very simple book, man. And that's why I really like that one. So talk a little bit about, from your perspective, why that book?
So I think beyond the obvious. Yes, I know the obvious is in the title, right? But people don't realize, times change, things change, and by the way what you're going to do with that is up to you. That's kind of what I've taken away and carried around with that book for so long. I think that sometimes, by the way, that's sitting next to The Art of War and Joe Verdi on my nightstand to this day.
Nice.
It's got a little dust on it, but every once in a while I pick it up and I reread parts of it. But that's a book that I think it doesn't matter if you listen to this podcast 20 years from now or 20 years ago. I think that it's appropriate at all times. Make sense?
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's one of those things, because I'm gonna tell you, when I first heard about that book, I'm like, what is this? Who moved my cheese? What? Like, are you serious? What? But when you think about it, that's exactly what it is. Who moved my cheese? The money, the Skrilla. Like, where's it at? You know what I'm saying? And all we got to do is just, I'm telling you, if you focus on it and listen, if it ain't where you thought it was, or if it isn't where somebody initially told you it was, just go find it. You know what I'm saying? Just go get it.
Just don't give up. Don't give up.
Oh my gosh, man.
There's a powerful book, although I haven't read the whole book, excerpts, 3 Feet from Gold.
Yes.
That's another powerful one, about a gentleman who's
grinding, get all the way down. He don't even know. He like, you know what? I'm tired of this. I'm done. I'm selling all the equipment. I'm going back home. And then and somebody just brush their hand, and all of a sudden you find the goal. You know what I'm saying? You was right there. So many people just quit quit the day before they was going to hit it. It's amazing.
That's
so
true.
Phenomenal stuff, man. So obviously, see, stuff like that just requires training, right?
Mhm.
Just understanding, what it is that what's really going on in the world. I think most people miss it because they never get themselves trained on how this stuff really works.
Sure.
So tell me, how important is training? What do you recommend people train on, and how often should they train?
Train every day.
Mm.
Train every day.
Mm-hmm.
Train every day.
That's it.
Because this is our profession. So I like to put this into terms like, so oftentimes people don't think about it like it's a profession. They go, it's another job,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a job. Well, my doctor goes to these meetings with other doctors, whether it's my allergist or my family doctor.
Mm-hmm.
They go to where they talk to other doctors about the latest, greatest, whether it be drugs or whether it be treatment options, whether it be plans just for physical therapy. They discuss these things, right?
Like so having a 20 group, but
you're exactly right. It's, but because that's a profession, they all get together and they like-minded people get together and talk about the best of the best. They try to get sold on some things. They discuss new options, and that's what they're doing. But that's a training.
Mm-hmm.
Let's call it what it really is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's training,
yep.
Right? And when we, who are selling the second most expensive thing in most people's lives, don't train for it, it blows me away.
Mm.
It absolutely. So you're going to ask me, I'm going to ask for a customer. I'm going to ask you for $40,000, but I can't tell you two things other than it's got a steering wheel and some tires. Come on. What are we talking about? What are we doing? So what I would say to anyone is you don't have to be like LA or Sean or any of the people I put on a pedestal, the Grant Cardones or the Joe Verdes, mm-hmm. the best of the pinnacles of the people that are trainers out there in the world today. You don't have to quite take that, but you should take some of the things that they're giving you in pieces mm-hmm. and do a little bit every day. It doesn't have to be like my day. I spend an hour on my way into work. So I do my Bradley on demand every other day in the car on my way into work. Mm-hmm. I balance some of that out with other things that I need to learn on my way into work, or I might be listening to the certified pre-owned program. I might be listening to something from Joe Verde that I remembered that, hey, I wanted to listen to this again. Mm-hmm. But whether it's product training or whether it's sales training, sales acumen, right? Or just getting better at our jobs, mm-hmm. Or it's phone training, or every day get better at something. Mm. And never stop. That's the game. The game is to never stop. Get hungry. Let that fire encapsulate you, because the view from the top, I understand, is quite pretty. I'm just keep climbing, but I'm telling you, I'm above the clouds now, and it looks pretty good from where I'm standing.
That's what I'm talking about, man. Yeah, our guy Zig Ziglar, man, he said it, man, training is like bathing, right? Mm. If you don't do it every day, eventually you're going to start to stink. You know what I'm saying? So we got to do it. But, man, I love what you said, man. You said that the doctor is going to 20 groups, right? And the doctor's making all kind of money, right? And the rest of us act like we can't go to 20 groups. Well, I'm going to give you guys an option, man, because the Internet Sales 20 group is coming up. It's happening November 11th through the 13th in Houston, Texas, man. So go to internetsales20group.com, right? Make sure you get your tickets, right? If you want to, listen, if the price is a little bit too much, just put in Blind Phone Master 19, right? It'll get you a little discount code and all that good stuff. But I mean, whatever it takes, man, we got to go out here. We got to get the training. And I'm just kind of putting you in position where you could be around the best of the best and get the training that you need, man. So that's some pretty cool stuff. So talk to me about Lamar, what do you love about the automotive industry? What sets it apart for you and makes it really shine?
That I can control how much I'm going to make today. Mm. I can control what my income is going to be. Mm. The amount of effort is directly correlated to the amount of pay. I've been telling people for years, I don't go to work for a paycheck, and I know I'm a little strange. I don't go to work for a paycheck. I go to work to try to make as many people happy and see buying a car as the awesome experience it can be. Mm-hmm. And because I do that well, the unintended consequences, they pay me rather well.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it's all right. Just getting a couple thousand, I'm just going to do my job. You know what I'm saying?
That's it. If you're out there and you're a people person and you want to make a difference in someone's lives, and you're going to want to get paid. I love listening to people tell me why they left that last dealership and why they're sitting in front of me. I love hearing those things because I know that I've got someone who is trying to buy a car, and sometimes we get in the way, right? We find a way to talk them out. What is the statistic? 80% of people, before they leave their house on a Saturday morning going to a dealership, they've already made a decision to buy a car. We find ways to mess it all up. We as an industry, we just find ways to just muddle it up in some way, shape, or form. So what do I love about the car business? LA, I've never said this to you, but my best friend brought me in the car business. I met my wife on a test drive. I was beginning at a new dealership, got lost on a test drive with my now wife. From that test drive to us getting married was about a year.
That is new. I've never heard that before. That's good.
My manager at the time knew that my wife and I were trying for a baby. My wife, we were having a problem with conception, and he said he had the same problem with his wife. He said the only thing that he wished that he had done differently all those years ago was that he took time off. So he kicked me out of the dealership and said, I don't want to see you for a week. I'll fill out the papers. You just get out of here and go take care of your wife.
Wow.
So I went and took care of my wife. We came back pregnant from Busch Gardens.
Wow.
So
man,
I have
awesome.
I have a lot to thank the car business for. My daughter, we've been able to pay for most of, been able to help her with college along the way. You know, I live in a really schwanky neighborhood. You know, I backed out of my driveway, LA, and the little kid from Exeter Township, Pennsylvania, with a D average was stopped by the surgeon that lives at the bottom of my street. Like, hey, what's going on? How you been? And I'm like, it's surreal. Yeah, it's surreal. So I take this very personally. I take when I see someone squandering their time at the dealership and they want to blame everybody else and they don't take any ownership themselves. It hurts my heart. Because of how much the car business has given me. Yeah. Absolutely. It's given me a lot.
Yeah, man. They talk about it, man. The middle class, they see themselves as victims while the world class sees themselves as responsible. So, man, that's absolutely some phenomenal stuff. So, man, listen, folks, this has been a really good podcast. And what I like about it, and this is no slight to you, is we ain't really said nothing that like out of this world on this podcast. It was the basics. You know what I'm saying? It's like be brilliant at the basics. And that's, you know, whenever I'm doing podcasts, I'm always thinking, okay, what am I going to title this thing? You know what I'm saying? But you just like made it so simple, man.
Do the basics brilliantly.
I'm telling you, that's all you got to do, man. So listen, there's people who want to get more, right? There's going to be some people that's like, yo, man, I got to contact that guy. I want to hear him. What are some ways that a person, how could they reach out to you if they needed to, and kind of give us a closing statement?
Sure. I can be reached. I'd give anybody my cell phone number on this podcast, brother. I don't mind that. At 610-463-6894. And I can always be reached at Lamars, Lamars, _CARS, at Microsoftexchange.com. Had that email forever.
Wow.
So, awesome. And just in closing, LA, it's been an absolute honor. And for those of you who, I sat down here with LA just thinking of what we were going to talk about. And, you know, I know the people who follow these podcasts religiously, you all know that LA is blind. And he is such a, I don't even know the words. I've been sitting here thinking about it because I'm watching this man navigate his laptop. He's got earphone. He's got two earbuds in either ear for different types of output. And we're having this conversation. And meanwhile, there's so many people that are, I'm going to call it able-bodied with no reasons not to be able to come and get it. And you find reasons why you can't. You justify to yourselves why it's okay to have a mediocre life. And that's sad. It's sad because mediocre mindset gives you the mediocre life. The car business allows you in, as long in the state of Pennsylvania, as long as you're not a felon, as long as you haven't been convicted of a crime of moral turpitude, the car business can be your second chance. If you were out there and you were doing any of those hustle type of things that are out there, some of the best hustlers make the best car guys. Yeah. And they can come and get it, and it's perfectly legal. And I don't look over my shoulder and I sleep like a baby at night, right? I came from a place where I thought that I could just fit in my stodgy Caucasian neighborhood, but I'm African American, and they realized that evidently they saw. I didn't realize.
Somebody's exposed your
like,
secret.
Hey, so I didn't know. Felt like Bill Bixby. Anyway, but my point is, guys and girls out there, you can come get as much of this as you want. It's up to you what you do with it.
Yes, indeed.
And if I can ever be of any help or anybody that I know, there are some greats out there. Find the person in the dealership that's doing the best and learn from him. If you see the guy in the corner that always wants to talk to you, walk away.
Right.
Walk away and go to work.
Right. So listen, I always say you are the average of the 5 people who you spend the most time with, and you've just been spending time with L.A. Williams and Mr. Lamar Turman, man. So Lance, I'm super excited. Go out there and be a millionaire car salesman, everybody. Thanks for listening. Appreciate you, man.
It's been great.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you like it, you love it, you want more of it, then don't wait for the next money show. Just go to BradleyOnDemand.com and take your career to the next level.